Hello and welcome to Soap Scoop. You join us today for a very special episode as we get to the end of the year. We're going to look back at 2025 at all our favourite bits, all the best bits, all the shocks, the surprises, the twists, the special episodes, and review the year as a whole. So if we cast our minds way, way back to January 2025, some of the big hitters. Okay, we started the year with Eve and Suki's wedding, Nish dying, that amazing balcony fall, one of my absolute favourite episodes of the year, even though it feels like a long time ago. Johnny, what are some of your highlights from the beginning of the year?
Well, I have to agree that I thought that was amazing, the Suki Eve wedding, and it does feel like ages ago, doesn't it? On an EastEnders tip, the start of the year was the 40th anniversary, of course, which is kind of one of the big sort of starting points for 2025. Again, feels like ages ago, and it was just kind of crazy to see the Vic literally exploding. Like, they really put all the budget into that, didn't they? And a lot of repercussions. That amazing live episode, some nice callbacks to the past for EastEnders. So I did really enjoy a lot about the 40th anniversary. I also really loved the limo crash in Emmerdale, which I know you're a fan of also.
Yeah, the limo crash was incredible. I really found myself, I mean, sometimes we get early access to the episodes, and these episodes were held back quite a lot, even from the journalists. And every time a new episode appeared, I was like, I need to see it right now because I need to know what happens. And of course, that was the first moment as well that we found out that there was a hand under the lake, and everyone was like, that's Nate's hand. I can see that friendship bracelet, which I remember being at the time when they kept focusing on the friendship bracelets that Frankie had made, thinking, why are they focusing on that? And then, of course, suddenly you see this hand in the lake and it all makes perfect sense. But sadly, we did lose Layla, obviously huge loss to the show, although her funeral was amazing with the voiceover. So classic Layla. And we lost Susie, we lost Amy. I think Amy's death really, really got to me. And it was just as obviously her and Matty were about to adopt and have a lovely storyline. I think that's one of my sad points about this year, is that after Amy's death, Matty's sort of gone into the cupboard a little bit and we have seen less of him, which I would have liked to have seen kind of more of him without Amy and learning to kind of live without her. But yeah, the limo crash, absolutely amazing. Also, another big highlight for me was Mason's stabbing in Corrie. That was a fantastic episode.
Yeah, that was really heartbreaking, wasn't it? Especially, he was this was the point. We were just getting to know him. He was establishing himself on the street, like with, some of the locals that were taking him in, like Sally and Tim. And you thought, oh, what a bright future this kid could have. And then tragically, what happened. And it was a really different kind of episode for Corrie. Like, I think, Emmerdale in particular do a lot of these special, crazy play with the format episodes. Corrie have shied away from them until really this year, I guess. This last year or two, they've really gone for those special, like, do it in a different style way kind of eps. And Mason's death is definitely one of their strongest. And it got such a reaction, didn't it? Because nobody knew, it came out of the blue. But yeah, really, really heartbreaking.
Well, obviously that story won Inside Soap's best storyline of the year as well. Obviously that storyline really resonated with people and stayed with them. And I think it's because Mason was one of those characters that was a bully and was really awful. And then when he kind of became friends with Tim, we grew to love him. And that was the start of Tim and Sally maybe considering that they had more to offer for their parenting as well, which I think has been a really nice direction for those two characters.
Definitely. I really feel that is just a general highlight of the whole of 2025 is Sally and Tim finding their inner Tom and Pippa, and Home and Away fans will know what I'm saying. And yeah, that new journey for them, and it's a new thing for Sally and Tim to do. I felt like we hadn't seen them enough prior to this. They'd been a bit quiet on screen in terms of kind of screen time and storylines. And they're such legends, particularly Sally, obviously. It's been really nice to see them, and I hope that continues. I hope they get like Tom and Pippa did, and Pippa and Michael, they get like an influx of unruly teens to test their patience, because I can see that being a lot of gold, a lot of mileage from that. And one of my favorite things, we're leaping ahead a little bit, but Sally looking after the Michaelis kids after what they went through, it's been really touching. So yes, in terms of the Mason thing, that really did steer Sally and Tim in a whole new journey for them, which I really loved and hope to continue to love, because I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of other storylines from the beginning of the year. We had Joe's kidney plot, which I know Laura Jane in our office was a massive fan of because she loves the soapy, campy home farm storylines. And of course, this was the kind of beginning of Joe Tate having returned at Christmas. I love Joe. I think he's brilliant. The kidney pot was a little bit mad. What
A
did you
little
think?
bit mad. How little is a little bit, or how big is a big bit mad? It was absolutely insane. But I kind of with Laura Jane, like it. That's Emmerdale's great balance, isn't it? It's kind of, it can do amazing, really gritty stuff. Like we'll come to it, but obviously the modern slavery county line story, and then it can be, it is Dynasty and Wellies sometimes, and just a nice balance of plots that make you go what, and plots that really are very, very true to life and gritty, but a little bit mad. Big
okay, maybe little is stretching it. I want to touch back on EastEnders' big anniversary again, because there were so many things. I think when we go back and think about that, we had Martin dying, we had the live episode, which obviously incredible performance from Lacey Turner and James By, and bear in mind that Lacey Turner had just given birth, like incredible stuff. But we also had Reese dying because a bath fell on him. Amazing. Sonia giving birth. There was just so much that happened in those episodes.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about Reese in the bath. What a fitting end. Oh, I mean, should it have been a tuber that fell on him? Death by tuber? I don't know.
Yeah, well, obviously, if we move towards the spring, we had Martin's funeral. We had Sonia leaving, which was obviously quite a big moment for the show as well. But on a happier note, we had Lauren giving birth to Jimmy, which Cindy helped deliver, which was a classic soap moment, mother-in-law from hell and the mother giving birth, classic EastEnders. I thought incredible stuff by Jacqueline Jossa when she found out that Jimmy was blind. I feel like that moment, it was really hasn't been probably given the recognition that it deserved. Like her performance, I remember her kind of hugging him in the bathroom of the hospital. Just amazing stuff, really great.
Yeah, I think she's come into her own massively with this storyline in this year. And I feel like Lauren, where she's at in her life now, you sort of can't imagine the show without her at the minute. I know she's been a presence for a long time, nearly 20 years, since we first met Lauren as a child when Max and Tanya first moved to the square. But I feel in the absence of Sonia, Lauren has become the girl who grew up on the square, the girl who's had so much history on the square, across paths with so many people and families. She's a mix of Sonia, a young Pauline Fowler, because she's quite mardy, and she's kind of a battle axe in the making. She's always been tough. She's always been a bit chippy, but she's now got this incredible, you just really admire her, I think, and respect her for how she's dealing with the Jimmy thing. Drama follows her around, but I'm kind of feeling she's now settling into her matriarch era. You know what I mean? And I really think it suits her. And I feel she really belongs in the square. And she's a touchstone as a character we've grown up with. And yeah, all of a sudden I feel like this is Lauren's best era. She's come into her own. That has been amazing. She's so kind of real. You'd never feel like she's acting. She's one of those performers who Lauren is a real person and she reacts so truthfully, and certainly with that story. So yeah, I think shout out, really, it's been a good year for Jacqueline and for Lauren.
Yeah. Well, when she was up for, I think it was the NTA up against Steve McFadden, and obviously he's had an amazing year as well with this toxic kind of masculinity storyline. But when they were both up, and I think she put on her Instagram, like, don't vote for me, vote for Steve. And it's like, I appreciate that, everyone was getting behind Steve, of course, and his win was so deserved. But I think, I hope that she gets her moment in the sun as well, because she's been brilliant this past year. So another amazing performance and also storyline, which has only really just begun. Debbie's dementia, obviously, she got diagnosed in the spring. Absolutely incredible by Sue Devaney. And I think I speak for everyone when I say that we love Debbie so much. She's so funny. She's so warm. She's so kooky. And I'm devastated that she's got this diagnosis. I think everyone is. And I think there was a lot of backlash at the beginning of, why Debbie? She's such a great character. But I think actually I am starting to see that this storyline is a great one for her because we love her so much.
Yeah, and you only do terrible things to the characters you care about, and it's hard to hear because it's similar to killing Lola off in EastEnders. It's still something I'm very unhappy about. But you cared so much about that character, similar with Debbie, and like you say, there was a bit of a backlash. Even I was a bit unsure, but just leave Debbie to be the comic relief. Just leave her in that space. That's all we need. Actually, yeah, I feel now we're just getting to the heart of the story, and it does make sense. And I think it's really brave of Corrie to have done it, kind of maybe knowing that there would be some resistance, or there would be some, I'm not sure how I feel about that as an audience, but yes, we care about her so much. Of course, we care that bit more. And we know Debbie. Some people have, remember Debbie from 40 odd years ago when she was in the show as a teenage girl. This is someone there's massive history with. It's an iconic heritage family she's part of. And also, I really love they're doing, and they said this all along, they're doing dementia the Debbie Webster way.
Yeah.
And she makes jokes about it because she can. It's so Debbie, the way she's coping with it and living with it. There's so much more to come. And they've said this is going to go on for years. I think when they announced it, everyone thought she was going to, be written out tomorrow and that's it. But Corrie are committed to telling the story over a long period of time. So we've still got Debbie for a long while yet.
Yeah.
It will be interesting to see. But the episode recently with all the girls' night out, that was so lovely and warm that they were supporting her. But everyone's making like really inappropriate jokes about dementia, but because that's how Debbie's dealing with it. So I think it's worked very well. I mean, it turns out Corrie knew what they were doing, Chloe, and we did catch up.
And I think, that's the sign of a soap in its sort of strong mode, because it's like you have to ignore the noise sometimes and just push on and do the stories that you think are right. And I actually do think as everyone will be, absolutely devastated to lose her eventually and to see her decline. But the way their story is going at the moment, I just love it. And I even, it's the mix of the humor, but also the sadness when Bernie opened the cupboard the other day and saw all her post-it notes with, remembering all the birthdays and things like that. It's like absolutely heartbreaking, but it's so real. And it's like people who have illnesses, you do have to see the funny side. You do have to sort of have that darkly comic way of living with these illnesses, because how else do you survive? And
that's Corrie, isn't it? Laughter in the face of adversity is what Corrie / soaps are all about. And also, I think there is a soapy twist to this as well, with Carl's been manipulating her, and there's all that aspect to it. You couldn't tell that story if she wasn't coping with this dementia diagnosis. So it's being tackled in a really interesting way, because you have got some soapy skullduggery around it. It isn't just the issue. That's more than enough to explore and highlight, of course. But yeah, you've got some real jaw-dropping OMG, is that really happening soapiness around it as well.
Yeah, I think the Websters have had a great year actually as a whole.
They've had a depressing year as a family, but a great year for the audience.
For us, I mean, that's who I care about. I don't care about how happy they are. And I know there's been a lot of controversy. Obviously, in the spring, Carla arrived as well, and there was that immediate spark with Abby. I didn't really feel their chemistry, if I'm honest. I think he's probably actually got a bit more of a spark with James, and that was a real shocker of a moment when that was revealed. But I remember when the spoilers came out in the office, and we were like, "You what?
You are,
James?" Yeah. But I think, I know there's, Carl's a wrong-un, but a great wrong-un. Love him to pieces. Think he's fantastic. He's the sort of villain you want to boo at, but he, that's what we love. We love to kind of boo and hiss at the screen. So what a great intro. I want to touch on the Dales, because for me, this was when Emmerdale was, well, it's been a great year for Emmerdale, but this is where it really kicked off for me, because we had not only the reveal of John was the killer and doing all these awful things behind the scenes that no one knew about apart from us, we also had the return of Robert, which was obviously a huge, brilliant moment, massive for fans, especially people like me who are big Robron fans. Brilliant spring for the Dales.
Yeah, I think Happy Robron Day will be a bank holiday in the future for those who celebrate, including you, Chloe. I feel like, you're going to lobby for this to be a public holiday.
Yeah. And
yeah, it's what millions of people have been waiting for a long time. It kind of really delivered. Everything exploded, didn't it, that week, with the wedding and the reveals and Robert and everything. Like you say, I think particularly from that period, Emmerdale has been pretty unstoppable. It's been a juggernaut of shocks and interesting story and surprises and kind of twists, and everything's been really interlinked, which I think is really good.
I love that, and I think it kind of started with the John stuff, because obviously there were so many characters that he meddled with, and it got Mac involved, it got Chaz involved, there was Ella. I mean, how can we forget about Ella? Poor Ella, shipped off to the police station for things she hadn't done. Where's the justice for Ella?
We had no justice. free the hot and one wherever she is.
We also had, Moira's farm was interfered with the slurry leak, which is then how she got involved with Celia. So many connections.
So John's fault. Are we just saying John Sugden is to blame for everything that's gone wrong in 2025?
Yeah, he really is the cause of so many things, and things that, maybe the villagers haven't even realised yet. But yeah,
global warming and, economic recession. I think it's all John Sugden.
Yeah, you're right. And obviously it all came out as well about his ex that was in the coma who woke up, and, brilliant reveals that week. So yeah, really great spring for all the soaps, actually, really good. As we move into the summer, we had one of my favourite new characters arrive. Well, I say new, he was born on the show, Oscar Branning. I think he's taken EastEnders by storm. A bit like Kammy and Emmerdale, just such a breath of fresh air, joy, happiness, brilliant lines. Are you an Oscar fan, Johnny?
I'm a big Oscar fan. I think from the minute we saw him, and like you say, it's weird to think he is that little kid, that we remember being born in amongst the whole Stax drama back in 2007. He is, just such a find as a performer, but I think they write brilliantly for him. And I really feel like you can tell when a soap, when the writers kind of really fall in love with the performance and they start to write for it, and we're really seeing that. He's hilarious. I just think he's so funny. He also just really looks like a young Kate Wood.
He really does, yeah.
Over that. Really fun. And again, we're starting to... Cammy's a good comparison as well. So I think, we're starting to dig a bit deeper beneath the gags and see what's behind the mask. He just is... I don't know, he just brings such unexpected moments of sweet humour and cheekiness, like he calls Ian Bryan all the time, doesn't it? Which was, and also there was one bit early on when he's talking to Lauren and he says something and she's like, "What did you just say? Sorry, could you just rewind?" And he looks at her and he went, I did this like pretend rewind thing, just a little thing. I guess, did he add it? Did the director say do it? Was it in the script? Who knows? But I just feel he's got such a unique energy about him, and I really hope we see more of him. Just love. And what about if there was, never mind Corriedale, Endersdale, Oscar and Kammy becoming like best mates? What would that be like? That would be
great. I don't know whether we could cope with their kind of positive energy, though. It might actually get to the point where we're like, bring on the darkness because you're too happy or too many jokes. But no, both those two characters have really made a difference in terms of the kind of energy of the show. And I think sometimes both shows have been accused of being kind of a bit grim and too dark, but I think both of them have added something just fun and joyful. And I like every time Kammy or Oscar are on screen, I just feel this like happiness wash over me. And I really hope that neither character is bogged down too much in the darkness or the drama. Obviously, they're going to have drama at some point. We want to find out more about Kammy and so on. But yeah, I hope they keep their kind of jollity because they really are brilliant characters. I think for me, certainly, Cammy's added a lot more to Vinny's storyline. I kind of felt like Vinny's sexuality and that kind of drama, I did feel a bit like it's been done before, but luckily we had Kammy, and his friendship with Vinny has been just gorgeous to see. So I'm glad that kind of he's been around as a nice ton of tonic to the sadness and the darkness. And talking of darkness, really, the John storyline really continued in the summer and into autumn, because John's kind of campaign against Robert got worse in terms of pushing against his kind of PTSD, and then everything came out with him and Mac discovered what John had been up to, and then we had the infamous chase through the forest with a bow and arrow, and the bunker. Who can forget the bunker?
The bunker. I wonder whether, you can have a tour of the Emmerdale and Corrie studios. Do they do bunker tours? I think there'd be a lot of interest.
Yeah, they definitely should. And then, of course, the resulting climax, I guess, of that plot was Aaron on the edge of the gorge with John, and Robert arrives and John decides, if I can't have Aaron, then no one can, and pulls him off the edge, which was just, really dark stuff. And I loved the moment Aaron twigged that something was going on, because I think fans had felt frustrated that, here's John being, to us anyway, really obviously a creep, and Aaron's just merrily going along with all of it. And then the moment it kind of clicked, and I think obviously this is where we see Danny Miller at his finest, where you can just see that slight shift in expression And when he was on the edge of the gorge, kind of trying to talk down John and say, oh, it's fine, we could be together, just go to the police. And John being John, but kind of believing him, but kind of setting it up so he framed Robert. Really, really great stuff. And those weeks, or those episodes, should I say, absolute must-see viewing, because not only were we thinking, God, how is this going to resolve itself? Because John's now awake from his coma, telling everyone that Robert did this, and Mac's still in the bunker the whole time. I think a lot of people thought that Mac was a complete goner. And I kept thinking, Mac is so beloved as a character. There's no way they're going to let him rot in the bunker as his exit. But, absolutely thrilling stuff. No idea where it was going to go. We didn't know what was going to happen to John. Obviously, he got shipped off to Rotterdam. And what a great set of episodes. And kind of on the flip side, Corrie decided to give us some joy and happiness in the form of Dev and Bernie getting married, which was a real highlight for me.
Yeah, and I think it's a soap first. It's the first time the bride has raved down the aisle. But has it been done before? It's an issue. It's big. Yeah, so that unforgettable. The raving down the aisle. So yeah, I hope that starts a trend for such an entrance to your bridal congregation.
And talking of weddings, of course, September saw Swyler get engaged, which was obviously very well received. But of course, if you get any happiness in soap, what happens the next day? Your dead wife comes back from the dead.
How many times has that happened to so many people? You're catching up with friends. Oh, it's been months. How have you been? Oh, well, I got engaged, and then my fiance's dead wife came back from the dead. It's a tale as old as time. Did we think, though, we were heading for this? There were so many, like over the summer, there was like, dead Becky was this corrupt cop, and there was all sorts of question marks over what she'd been up to when she was alive. And we were starting to think, this character's getting more screen time than anyone in Corrie than Rita. And she's not even alive. No, she is. So I think we all started to kind of think, is that where it's going? But yeah, I mean, what a moment where we saw Becky for the first time. And it just ramped that story up and took it into even more like heightened, crazy territory. But kind of here for it. What do you think of the Becky reveal?
Well, I love that initial reveal. I thought it was such a great moment, because I think I personally kept thinking, like, how would you react? Because I just think, yes, okay, it's an outlandish plot twist, but on a kind of personal, human level, really great drama to explore. I think I loved seeing the kind of, I mean, Carla was very well behaved to begin with, very patient, you got to honour her for that. But I'd have to say I did love the kind of angst and grittiness for Carla and Lisa, because I felt like, they'd got together fairly fast and things were really kind of almost perfect. And then you get to the point where you think, oh, is it a bit too perfect? Can we put a bit more kind of grit in between them? And I know fans will say, oh, they had, Rob Donovan and they had kidney transplants and sepsis and all sorts of drama. Yes, but they didn't have the kind of personal relationship drama where their love is tested. And that's what I always enjoy in these stories. I think the kind of Line of Duty-esque stuff has just completely flown over my head. I could not explain that plot to you, even if you gave me £1 million. I try, but I wouldn't be great. I think Kit would do a better job than me.
If you watch Gogglebox, Jenny and Lee are watching Line of Duty, and Jenny's got a notebook.
Yes,
because she can't keep up with it. I think you need a notebook. You need Jenny's notebook from the Gogglebox caravan, because there's a lot to keep up with. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. There's car chases. There's all this going on.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm really excited to see especially as we move towards Corriedale. I mean, it's really ramping up at the moment. But the kind of Line of Duty stuff leaves me a little bit cold. But I love the kind of personal, human stuff. And I actually do think, I know fans may disagree, but I think it's going to make Carla and Lisa stronger in the end, because I think, what can be worse than this, really?
I mean, they're never going to argue about loading the dishwasher or putting the bins out ever again when you've had this come between them. I mean, let's hope it makes them stronger, because who knows what lies ahead. I'd also like to shout out Sydney Martin, plays Betsy, who I think was one of the more, like you say, the kind of emotional truth of it and the more relationship-y stuff. I think Betsy's reaction has been really interesting. I mean, Sydney is such as, a Corrie star of the future anyway. And how does a teenage girl cope with this? And that's been not underplayed, but I feel like that's be good to see more of that, really. I think Betsy, for me, is
Yeah.
the emotional key to it all, and adds a bit of realism to the kind of bonkersness of the plot.
In terms of EastEnders, of course, we had two huge storylines. One, the Joel attacking Vicki, which I thought was really well done. I know there was obviously a lot of people that were like, oh, you know, it's a bit like adolescence, but not quite. But I think Max Murray, who played Joel, did a fantastic job. And I know he's a little bit older than Joel in real life, but he did such a great job kind of spouting all this misogynistic nonsense. And it's very hard to do a kind of, if you want to say, like an internet story in a soap, but I think they did a good job of showing that kind of like you know, manosphere culture and all that kind of stuff, and the way it ended up making him turn on Vicki was really well done. And particularly I think that was a great moment for Vicki too, because we really got to see Alice Haig in full throttle.
Yeah,
What did you think of that storyline?
she was amazing in that. When it reached that peak, yeah, she really came into her own. And again, you know, a big entrance for Vicki, return Vicki 2.7, or, you know, whatever. It's a recast. We haven't seen Vicki for a long time, and she has become like her mum. She's become very like Michelle Fowler-esque, which is of course totally understandable because she is the daughter of Michelle Fowler. She's now a grown up. And just seeing someone who, you know, is so strong and comes from strong, you know, Fowler stock, just be so vulnerable and just be so, just at her lowest ebb and not knowing what to do and thinking, how did I get here? And also she tried to help Joel. Vicki, you know, Amros did, you know, at various points try to help Joel. Then it all just spiraled so much. I do think it was the making of Vicki as a character. She's someone I really care about now as a result of seeing what she went through. And yeah, it is hard. You're right. Internet stories are hard because, you know, how do you visually, it's hard to show. It's a challenge. It's, you know, other soaps have done it and they kind of tried it. I feel like EastEnders really went for it in a way that, you know, maybe other soaps hadn't, or just went a different way, and very, very violent and quite explicit at points. It needed to be shocking. That was the BBC did as well, that Max Murray hosted as himself, and yeah, really interesting. It's a story that needs to be told for that part of
absolutely.
Or for any part, but yeah, I think big up Alice Haig particularly for those scenes. She put herself out there.
And probably the biggest moment in Soapland in the autumn was the return of Zoe, and we had that incredible moment where she showed up in the taxi and Kat was in the rain, and it really echoed that infamous scene. I won't do the impression. I'll leave the impressions to you, Johnny.
I mean, I can't even do it. It's too iconic. I can't even try it, but maybe we'll see.
Zoe's return, I think, probably we've had some amazing returns this year from Soapland. Probably people we didn't ever think would return. Zoe being one of them. And I mean, it's whether the story has lived up to that hype is a question mark for now, because I wonder whether it ever could, because it's one of those storylines that's gone down in history. It's remembered for that moment alone, probably. I think it would be very difficult to ever live up to that kind of nostalgia. But that moment of her returning was a real, like, you know, it actually kind of really made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It was kind of a really powerful soap moment.
Yeah, very goosebumpy, isn't it, to see Zoe? And you're right, we thought Zoe Slater would probably never be seen again on screen. It seemed like the moment had gone. It seemed like Michelle Ryan had just, you know, moved on from it, or just done other things, been rumoured but never happened. A bit like Cindy Beale. Obviously Cindy Beale was dead, but when those characters come back, I had that same reaction when we saw Cindy again, because I never thought I would see this as an EastEnders fan through and through from day one. And there was that thrill, you know, and Zoe and Kat, Jessie and Michelle together, it's kind of electric. And I did like initially when Zoe was a complete mess and we were like, what has happened to this girl? You know, she's been through so much. There's 20 years of backstory. I did like the twist that her and Max had, you know.
Yeah, I love that.
Flashbacks, because he loves the Slater. He's got a type. Whether that's going to go anywhere, I don't know. But I did quite enjoy the inevitability of Max Branning and Zoe Slater. Thought was really well done.
Yeah, I love that as a twist as well, because I wasn't expecting it, but it was perfect. And as we move now towards Christmas and the kind of end of the year, obviously with found out that Jasmine is Zoe's daughter, and there's that kind of, which I imagine is going to be a huge part of the New Year storylines. We had some big arrivals in terms of the Driscolls and Corrie, with Eva as well alongside them. And I know one of your highlights towards the end of the year was Kev in Emmerdale.
Yeah, and again, you know, I love doing an impression, as you know, but how could I recreate the absolute beauty and majesty? And we've talked about it on this podcast before, of Kev serenading his beloved Robert with the Daniel Bedingfield classic. So I just think Kev is, yeah, up there with Oscar Branning in terms of, and Kammy, like a character that's brought so much unexpected moments of joy, of drama, of everything to Soapland. I think, yeah, Chris Cockhill, what a coup to sign him anyway. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm going to start a Kev fan club, I think. And also, like with Robron, as you know, you're always thinking, what next for Robron? What possible twist is left? Who's gonna come between them? Who's gonna tear them apart? Who's gonna tempt one to have an affair? Who's gonna like blow their world? I think Kev's arrival has really like given Robron a whole other you know, element, I guess, in terms of exploring their relationship. And also Robert, I think it really humanized Robert when we saw what life was like in prison, how him and Kev met, and how special that bond was. I think it's made us not hate Robert as much as we normally do, because Robert's pretty...
Speak for yourself, Johnny. Some of us
Hey,
are massive Robert fans.
I know you love him. I love Robert, but he's a bit of a horrible person a lot of the time. But I think
John also changed. I think actually what I really liked about Robert's return was seeing a really different side to him, because he was still the same person, but you could see how much prison had changed him and altered him. And I thought when he had his breakdown, you know, and John had been really pushing his buttons and turning everyone against him, and I thought that was really powerful stuff, actually, and completely different from what anything we'd ever seen before. And that's always with returning characters, that's always the challenge, isn't it? Because often the character leaves maybe when the actor feels like they've done everything they can. And we've seen the same with Zoe, probably Eva. And then when they come back, it's like, what are we going to see next? What's going to be the new era for them? And I'm glad that they've done different things with Robert and with all these characters, because I think otherwise you're just kind of retreading old ground. There's obviously things we want to see. We want to see the scheming, and we want to see Robron, but we want to see different stuff as well. One Emmerdale storyline we have to touch on, because it's been big towards the autumn, is the Charity pregnancy, surrogacy, but not storyline, which has been one of my favorites, I have to say, because Charity at her chaotic best, lying and, you know, going from Mackenzie to Vanessa to Ross, and then pretending that the baby is her granddaughter's. What a mess, but absolutely fantastic storyline. I can't wait for that to all explode. I know there's going to be lots of kind of mini explosions as the secret kind of comes out into the open. But it's been the autumn has been big as well for many other characters in Emmerdale. We've had the Bear storyline. We've had all the human trafficking stuff with April and Ray and Celia. It's just been you know, non-stop. I mean, very dark, very grim at times, which is why obviously we've needed the lighter stuff. But wall to wall, massive storylines in the autumn.
Yeah, again, Emmerdale, like we said, you know, from about May time, the whole trajectory was set in terms of all these storylines unfolding and unraveling, really from just the John stuff, as we were saying. And this is where it all really started to really hit and to really just develop these tentacles that are going across the village. And how Ray and Celia, in plain sight, you know, we realized what fingers were in what pies. And it made, like you say, it made it so unmissable, because you knew that every single plot was kind of intersecting. So the consequences and the ramifications of every decision every character made was all started to interlink. It was just like really exciting, really pacey. But the nature of the slavery story and the county line story has been, you know, this is territory soaps have never really gone to, or gone to in as much depth.
Yeah.
And it's very, you know, Celia and Ray are just these monsters, but everyone thinks they're lovely. You know, half the village are these really great people. But it's how it's affecting real families, isn't it? It's like a very I'm not even going to say heightened, because this stuff is happening everywhere. For it to be happening in sleepy Emmerdale also makes it really perfect, because Emmerdale has that idyllic, bucolic, lovely feel about it. It's not a gritty urban landscape like EastEnders and Corrie. It's lovely. Wouldn't you love to live in Emmerdale? Isn't everyone's houses lovely? So pretty. And yet all this evil is underneath. It's like a David Lynch film. It's quite addictive as well. Don't you think? The pacing and the way which has been drip fed the developments to these stories.
I think we really have to give a shout out to the characters of Celia and Ray, and obviously the performance of Jay Griffiths and Joe Absalom, because these two characters are absolutely despicable, awful human beings. However, as characters, they are so watchable. They are, I think, probably some of the best villains the show's ever had, because Ray himself is so complex. I mean, I think we could have a whole podcast about Ray. In fact, we probably have spoken about Ray to last the whole podcast. But so dynamic and interesting and complex. And Celia, so she revels in her delicious evilness, and I love that about her. And I wasn't a Mina fan, if we're going to go back in time to Emmerdale times. I wasn't a Mina fan because I think it was a bit too winky to the camera and breaking the fourth wall. But Celia revels in her own horribleness, and I love that about her, because I think she's so unhinged. You could not cross her, because you just know that she'd be one step ahead all the time. I do not think we were prepared for how dark it would get or how evil it would be.
Absolutely not. But yeah, it's kind of crescendo the year, really, isn't it? Because it was such a slow burn, and now, as you know, here we are at the end of the year. It's probably the biggest story going on in Soapland right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we go, we're just going to do a very quick fire on our favourite moments of the year with some special categories that we've put together. So, Johnny, favourite shock, twist or surprise of the year?
Well, this is a hard one because it's been a year of twists. But in terms of a moment where I actually went and I made that noise, was Angie Watts coming back from the dead as a hallucination to Sharon when she was buried under the Vic stairs. Yeah, wearing the same outfit Angie Watts wore in episode 1. That was amazing. That was absolutely brilliant. And again, a thing I never thought I'd see, Anita Dobson being Angie in front of my face. Absolutely. And I'll do it again.
Absolutely incredible moment. I'm just going to be predictable. My favorite was Robert's return, because again, a bit like with the Angie thing, never expected to see Robert again. To see him walking into the wedding, real shame that it got spoiled, because I think Emmerdale put a lot of effort into trying to keep it a secret, but obviously it was quite good for the hype, I guess. But yeah, amazing moment, and has I think Robert's a great dynamic character that works so well with so many others. So it's kind of, the energy was really stepped up when he arrived. So best shock or surprise for me, that was.
I'm not shocked that is your best shock, knowing how much you love Robert, but
that is, you're not shocked. That's my shock. So what was your funniest moment of the year, John?
I have mentioned it before, but it's Emmerdale's Kev karaoke moment. In fact, the whole karaoke party was quite fun. Billy got to
I love Billy doing the Spice Girls. That was brilliant.
Who knew? And he really knew his lyrics. But it was amazing, and it will stay with me for a long time. In fact, sometimes I just watch it just for lols. But it's really sad as well. But it was
I cannot watch it because the cringe level is too much for me. I have very low threshold for secondhand embarrassment, and that just
it's not for you then.
Alarm bell.
Yeah,
for me. No, I couldn't even watch the one he uploaded to Instagram, the one take. It was too much. It was
too much.
But for my funniest moment is that actually a different karaoke moment, which is George and Glenda singing Bobby Socks, the Eurovision entry, which two of my favourite things colliding, Coronation Street and Eurovision. I want to be the third Shuttleworth. This is my plea to Coronation Street. Please let me be their sister. I love them so much.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Would you work in the Undertakers, or would you be a feisty barmaid? Like, who would you like to work with?
I think I'd rather be in the bar than in the Undertakers, but I do love George. I've made no secret of that. So maybe I could be George's assistant. That's fine with me.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So obviously this has been the year of special episodes. It's been so many. What has been your favourite special episode?
Probably, and there has been a lot, so it's pretty tough, because all the soaps have really kind of gone there with them. But when April, we thought the fake out of April telling Marlon in Emmerdale about what she was going through and about Ray and about Celia and everything. And we thought, oh, finally, she's finally opened up. And then Ray comes in and shoots Marlon at point blank range. Then, oh no, it was all in April's imagination and it didn't happen. It was a what if. I thought it was really incredibly powerful. And it was, you think, they're not killing Marlon, are they? And also, I work for Inside Soap. I would have heard. I really thought, oh my goodness, is this happening? And I thought it was quite clever. But yeah, lots of really, fair play to all the soaps there. They're really up in their game in terms of these special episodes. But for me, that left me actually very shaken as a viewer, and it was done. It was done very well, I thought.
Yeah, mine would be, we talked about it earlier, but the Mason stabbing episode. And I think it worked so well because we'd really grown to like him as a character. And that moment where he was in a taxi and you realize that he's not going to have his nice happy ending. He's actually been stabbed and this is his like hallucination, was such a powerful moment. And I think obviously we saw quite a lot of offshoots from that episode with Abby and her hallucinations and the stuff with Dylan and Sean. Brilliant stuff all around. But that episode for me was really powerful. So for the next category, unexpected new favorite character. So a character that's already been in the show that suddenly has risen to the top of your list as a favorite character.
I'm going to say Christina in Corrie. So she's been in and out of the show a couple of years. Obviously came in as Daisy's duplicitous mum, and she was just going to be a guest character. And I think the audience really loved her. I think Corrie obviously loved Amy Robbins, and she's such a fit for Corrie. She's done it all. She's been around for years. But they have retooled her slightly, haven't they? They've made her a lot more sympathetic. And we kind of let's forget she was trying to con everyone out of loads of money. And I do feel Christina's met a nice man and made some friends and actually been a bit less spiky. But I think she, again, it's hard to imagine the show without her. I think she's really looks like she belongs.
Yeah.
But every so often, I think she kind of tried to destroy so many lives. But let's brush over that. I'm prepared to do it because Christina, the new version, really, really love her, and I think she's a great Corrie character. She's a great feisty female.
Yeah, absolutely. I love her so much. Mine would be Harry Mitchell because I wasn't that fussed about him as a character when the new Mitchells arrived, but I really think through the drugs plot he came into his own, particularly his lovely friendship with Kojo. I think those two have the bromance to end all bromances, absolutely. And as sometimes the drugs plot was a bit of a hard slog, but I think seeing it through Harry's eyes really made us feel so much empathy for him and this impossible situation he was trapped in. So he's really become actually one of my favorites now. So yeah, Harry Mitchell for me. A character in need of a bit of a revamp for 2026, someone who we want to have maybe a better life in 2026 or go in a new direction. Who are you going to pick?
Well, it's more like, can we just use them more? Because I feel like they're constantly underused. Is Gina Knight in EastEnders? She's at the heart of lots of stories, but I feel like she's not in it enough in a way. Like, I don't know, like she was involved with the Harry plot. Their kind of relationships been really key. Loads going on with the Knights, and there's the kind of the splitting up of the Knight Peacocks. They've all gone in different directions. Elaine's at Peacock Palace. George is now abroad with Nicola. George is involved in the the Kojo Harry drugs plot. Anna's gone to race across the world. And what was that? Another show. And Gina, there's so much there. She's such a great performer, so it's more like who I'd like to see more of. But then saying that, I feel she needs a bit of a give her own plot. I feel she's in lots of other people's, but I'd like to really explore more about Gina. She's had the past with the the drug abuse and all of that. Yeah, I'd like just to have Gina. I don't really want her to be happy. I'd like Gina to have drama because I feel she could really deliver. Or even just make her more minxy, or even just make her more of an antagonist, because I think she's got that about her. So yeah,
and she's Cindy's daughter. She's definitely got it in her. So I think let's see her with Cindy a bit more as well.
Definitely, I think let's bad cleaner. That's what I'd like to see.
That's your 2026 hope. Well, mine is going to be April, and I know she's had a massive year in 2025, but it's been such a misery fest for poor April. She's gone from living on the streets. She had that awful miscarriage, and just horrendous life moment after life moment.
It's not her fault, Zoe. It's not her fault.
Fault. We're not blaming her. This is not victim shaming or blaming. But she's got to have a better year next year, surely. I think she deserves something more joyous, more happy. She's very young. Let's see a bit more, youth and fun, and let's lose the drugs and the misery. We love her relationship with Ross, and I know that's we're gonna see some more of that coming up. But I think there's definitely more to play in the kind of way. Obviously, you don't get a lot of happiness in soap. If you're going to be in the drama, you're going to have a miserable time. But I feel like she's had so much misery.
So much misery. She has had her fair share. She is due some lighter moments.
She's due a little break from the misery. And I think same probably goes for Marlon and Rona. They've had a really horrible Christmas, so let's give them something in the new year to smile about. And Mary, of course, we don't see enough of Mary, so let's get her involved somehow.
Yes, absolutely. And but I don't know, at the moment I can't see much happiness in that household. But fingers crossed, new year, new start.
Well, I really hope that you've enjoyed this look back over the year with us, and maybe you can share in your comments all the categories that we've answered. So your favorite shock twist, your favorite special episodes, all those categories. Tell us what your favorites are in the comments. We'd love to hear them. And we've been so enjoying all your comments, all your feedback on the podcast. Please keep it coming. Please share it, like, subscribe. And we just love getting all the theories and the feedback and the comments from you guys. And we hope to read more of it in the next year. And we hope you have a brilliant new year. And we will see you in 2026.